My son stayed quiet for 3 weeks following our heated dispute, so I approached his door seeking clarity. The door remained shut, prompting me to peer through his window. What I witnessed shattered my reality, causing my knees to shake and my pulse to race. Before we proceed, please subscribe to the channel and comment below with the current time and your location. The kitchen door crashed against the wall so forcefully that my reading glasses almost slid off my nose. Ethan burst in like a whirlwind. His luxury jacket was creased, and his eyes burned with urgency. "Dad, I need $20,000 right now." His tone broke with desperation. "This is an investment chance that won't last." I placed down the utility statement I had been examining and gazed at my son, 38 years old, dressed in outfits pricier than my weekly food expenses, yet extending his palm like a kid asking for pocket money. "Son, you claimed the same last time." I maintained a calm, even tone. "Where is that money, the $10,000 you vowed to repay in 3 months? Ethan started pacing between the kitchen island and the table where I was seated. His high-end boots tapped against the tile floor with every restless stride. "This is entirely different. It's a separate matter altogether." He waved his arms wildly, almost tipping over the pepper mill. The documents scattered on my table painted a contrasting picture. Power bill overdue by 3 months. Property assessments coming due soon. My retirement income handled the essentials, but just barely. Ethan's prior assured profits had vanished like early mist. "I am not a cash machine." "Ethan." I took off my glasses and polished them methodically, intentionally. "Work for it on your own." His cheeks turned crimson. The pacing halted suddenly. "You miserly old fool." Ethan's hand slammed onto the table, scattering invoices across the floor. "You are hoarding wealth while I strive to create something meaningful." I stayed in my chair, observing my son morph into a stranger I hardly knew. This was not the child Sophia had nurtured with tender care and strong values. Creating something. I collected the dropped documents one at a time, like that cafe project that endured 4 months, or the digital sales plan that drained your uncle's funds, too. Ethan clutched the back of the seat opposite me, his fingers pale from strain. The late afternoon sun poured through the kitchen pane, highlighting the anguish carved into his face. "You fail to grasp contemporary commerce." His pitch rose higher, more frantic. "These prospects do not linger for outdated mindsets." I rose gradually, my joints aching after 2 hours bent over statements. At 70, I had mastered distinguishing between genuine prospects and illusions. "What I comprehend is accountability." I held his stare firmly, something your mother endeavored to instill in us both. Mentioning Sophia struck him like a slap. Ethan's posture slumped briefly before fury overtook the fleeting weakness. "Do not drag Mom into this." He shoved the chair from the table. It tumbled rearward, banging against the fridge. "She would have backed my aspirations. Your mother would have advised you to find employment." Ethan's chuckle lacked joy, filled only with sour bitterness. He headed for the kitchen exit, then whirled back with frenzied eyes. "You believe you are imparting a lesson, you greedy old idiot." His words fell to a threatening murmur. "I will claim what is mine by any means." The kitchen grew still, save for the constant tick of the wall timer and the faint buzz of the appliance. Ethan glared at me for an extended moment, his breathing labored with rage and need. Then he departed, the door banging shut with sufficient power to shake the frames. I remained solitary in my kitchen, eyeing the flipped chair and strewn bills, sensing the burden of 38 years of parenthood weighing on me. The toppled chair rested on its side like a defeated warrior, one leg aimed accusingly upward. I gazed at it for a few minutes before bending to right it. The collision had marked a minor scratch on the fridge surface. Sophia's words resonated in my recollection as I picked up the scattered statements from the ground. Vance, if you hand him all without labor, he will never appreciate effort. She had uttered that when Ethan was 17, requesting a vehicle without earning a penny. I straightened up slowly, my back complaining about the motion. The kitchen seemed overly hushed now, as though Ethan's stormy entrance had occupied a void I had not noticed. The wall timer ticked reliably, tracking moments that hovered between clash and settlement. Heading to the living room, I sank into my faded leather armchair. Sophia's photo rested on the end table, her grin preserved in timeless hope. 40 years of union, and she had never witnessed me falter in a choice regarding Ethan. But she had never seen him this frantic either. Had I been too severe, the query gnawed at me as I lifted her image, tracing my finger along the brass border. Ethan's gaze had contained more than wrath that day. True terror. Terror of what? I could not determine. But it lurked beneath the fury and privilege. The afternoon glow angled through the living room panes. Throwing elongated shadows over the oak flooring Sophia had demanded we lay in 2000. She had scrimped for 3 years to cover it. Taking additional hours at the clinic while I oversaw the building team that would install those very planks. Affection without limits injures the offspring, she often stated. Sophia had been the enforcer when Ethan was small. While I yearned to provide him all we lacked, she had halted me then, just as she would now. But Sophia was absent to affirm my decisions. She was not present to observe her son in extravagant coats while pleading for funds like a beggar. I placed the photo down and proceeded to the cellar entrance. The timber treads groaned under my mass as I went down into the chilly gloom below. The earthy scent of cement and aged lumber filled my senses, known and somewhat soothing. Beside the heater, under the uneven planks I had never fully repaired, rested my actual reserves. Not the humble savings account Ethan knew of, but the currency Sophia and I had tucked away across years. 50,000 in tidy packets sealed in vinyl pouches to ward off dampness. Crisis funds. Funds for health costs, house fixes, or real emergencies. Not for speculation plots or lavish attire or whatever urgent dream Ethan pursued this month. I did not lift the planks or tally the cash, merely knowing it existed, secure from Ethan's recklessness, offered the comfort I required. Sophia had relied on me to safeguard our tomorrow. I would not betray that reliance now, even if it meant seeing my son falter. The steps moaned again as I ascended to the primary level. Through the kitchen glass, I spotted Mrs. Whitaker tending her yard nearby, her actions deliberate and steady. She had been Sophia's dearest companion, had clasped my hand at the memorial while I fought not to crumble under abrupt isolation. Perhaps I should contact Ethan, express regret for my sternness, clarify that affection sometimes demanded refusal. But as I extended for the device, Sophia's tone murmured in my thoughts once more. He must absorb it. Vance. He must absorb it before it is too late. I allowed my hand to drop and ascended to my sleeping quarters. The next day would present its own trials. This evening, I would believe that 38 years of attempting to guide Ethan properly had sown ideas that could yet flourish. Even in the barren ground of his present urgency, the residents calmed around me with accustomed noises, the sigh of breeze through the roof edges, the far-off drone of vehicles on Maple Avenue, the gentle tick of timers noting time in vacant spaces. The following dawn, I grasped my phone prior to completing my initial coffee sip. Ethan's contact was prominent in my list. Prepared to connect. Certainly. He had calmed after the night. Certainly. We could converse as sensible grown-ups. The device rang 7 times before diverting to message. His saved greeting sounded fresher. Somehow. More hopeful than the urgent man who had occupied my kitchen the day before. Ethan. It is Dad. Return my call when you receive this. We ought to discuss. I disconnected and proceeded with my morning habits. Bath, meal, scanning the Denver Post digitally. But every several minutes, my glance shifted to the display, awaiting illumination from an arriving contact. Nothing. That night, I attempted once more while viewing the broadcast. Then again prior to rest. Each unheeded ring weighed heavier than before. By Friday, I had deposited 4 voicemails and dispatched 3 messages. Son, let us converse. Perhaps we can discover a middle ground. The phrases appeared pitiful on the tiny screen, like frantic bargains with one holding every advantage. Saturday delivered storms and ongoing quiet. I examined Ethan's online profiles for the first time in weeks, browsing images of gourmet dinners and scenic trips dating to mid-April. No fresh entries, nothing clarifying his whereabouts or reason for ignoring a basic call. Sunday morning. I wandered from kitchen to den to kitchen once more. Device in grasp. The quietude was turning tangible, an entity filling the barren areas of my dwelling. Mrs. Whitaker signaled from her garden, and I compelled a grin, pondering if she could detect the concern etched on my features. My midday pattern of tried outreach had formed its own cadence. First, a call, permitted to sound 9 times. No further, no fewer. Then pause 60 minutes. Transmit a note. Pause another 60. Inspect his profiles. Repeat. Monday introduced frantic steps. I browsed Ethan's directory on my outdated device, seeking familiar entries. Tyler Brooks, Ethan's pal from secondary school, now employed at a software firm in the city center. They had maintained contact through the years, occasionally meeting for beverages or viewing Broncos matches together. Tyler responded on the 3rd tone. Mr. Strathmore. Is all well, Tyler? Have you encountered Ethan recently? I have been attempting to contact him all week. A hesitation. Then, in fact, Mr. Strathmore. I have been searching for him as well. He took $700 from me last month. Claimed he would reimburse it soon. His device has diverted straight to message for days. My gut sank. When did you last observe him? Wednesday morning. He appeared tense about an issue. Mentioned a major conference that afternoon. That is the final I learned from him. Wednesday. The day he had raged from my kitchen, vowing to seize what was his by any method. I expressed gratitude to Tyler and ended. Then promptly dialed Ethan's line again. This instance, it failed to ring. Direct to message as if the unit was drained or deactivated. Thursday introduced a fresh degree of unease. I discovered myself inspecting my device every few moments, scrolling our message exchange, hunting for hints I might have overlooked. His final note to me was from 3 weeks prior. Thanks for the anniversary gift. Dad. I will use it wisely. Friday signified 1 complete week since our clash. I positioned myself in the identical location in my kitchen, where Ethan had overturned the seat, attempting to recall each phrase he uttered. I will claim what is mine one way or another. What did he intend? What did he believe was his? Saturday evening. I occupied Sophia's seat, which I seldom did, and fixed on my mute device. 8 days without a syllable from my sole offspring. Even in his darkest periods, his messiest splits, his collapsed enterprises, Ethan had never vanished entirely. He had always required something, always discovered a cause to connect. The dwelling felt altered now, infused with a tension I could not identify. Every squeak of the planks made me glance up, hoping to spot Ethan's known outline in the entry. Every vehicle closure echoing in the road quickened my heart, imagining he might return to express remorse. But he was not returning. Something was amiss, something exceeding our dispute over funds. I sensed it in the unnatural stillness of my device, in the total lack of his online traces, in the way Tyler's tone had borne its own worry. Sunday morning, I reached a resolution that had built for days. I would travel to Ethan's residence, in person. We could settle whatever rift this had driven between us, father to offspring. We could reclaim the bond Sophia would have desired us to preserve. I completed my brew, seized my keys from the peg by the kitchen exit, and directed toward my vehicle. The dawn air was fresh and bright, ideal for travel. Whatever occurred with Ethan, whatever prompted this quiet, I would uncover truths today. The motor ignited on the initial attempt, and I reversed from my drive with intent. One way or another, this quiet would conclude today. Monday morning delivered the identical practice. Brew at the kitchen surface, device in hand. Ethan's contact emphasized on the display. 10 days now since our confrontation. 9 days since his last sign of interaction anywhere. My finger lingered over the dial option, aware of what I would encounter. The identical automated tone stating the user was unreachable. This time, I refrained from pressing it. Instead, I navigated my contacts until locating Tyler Brooks's entry. If Ethan evaded me, perhaps he had shared with his companion. Perhaps Tyler knew something to alleviate the expanding knot in my abdomen. Tyler answered on that fourth tone, sounding drowsy. "Mr. Strathmore." "All okay, Tyler. Sorry for the early hour." "Have you seen Ethan in recent weeks? I have been trying to reach him." And I paused, avoiding sounding like an over-anxious guardian. He is not responding. Quiet extended between us for several beats. When Tyler spoke next, his tone shifted. Wary, nearly ashamed. "Actually, Mr. Strathmore, I have been hunting him too. He borrowed $700 from me last month. Said it was short-term, just until some design work compensated." Tyler cleared his voice. His device has gone straight to message for more than a week. My brew chilled as Tyler's statements absorbed. 700 from Tyler, 20,000 requested from me. Who else had Ethan solicited? How profound were his monetary woes? "When did you last meet him in person?" "Wednesday morning. May 15th. I believe." He seemed pressured about something. Kept glancing at his device. Said he had a crucial session that afternoon. Tyler paused. "Mr. Strathmore, is Ethan all right? This is not typical for him to vanish." Wednesday, the day he had stormed from my kitchen, threatening to take what belonged to him. After thanking Tyler, I sat alone in my kitchen, staring at the cold brew and feeling the weight of 10 days pressing upon me. Sophia's photograph smiled from the den, but even her recollection could not supply the direction I required now. Enough. Whatever was transpiring with Ethan, whatever mess he had entangled himself in, I needed to confront him directly. I had driven to his Highland Park lease twice previously, once upon his initial occupancy, once to assist with a dripping sink. The location remained in my device from when I collected him for holiday supper. I located my keys on the peg by the kitchen exit, verified I had Ethan's address, and grabbed my billfold. The dawn was bright and mild. Standard Colorado spring climate, perfect for a journey across Denver to face whatever concealed my son. The garage barrier rumbled upward, and I backed my vehicle onto the serene road. Mrs. Whitaker was already nurturing her blooms. and she signaled as I departed. I wondered what she would think, if she knew my destination, what I suspected about Ethan's circumstances. Traffic was sparse heading east toward Highland Park. I had labored construction in that district back in the 90s when the zone shifted from rural land to residential growth. Now, it was varied. Some roads well kept, others displaying signs of financial downturn. Ethan's road was Elm Street. About 25 minutes from the center, if flow permitted. I had committed the path to memory during prior trips, though I had never closely observed the area itself. Today, I drove with altered perspective, viewing the place my son selected to reside, wondering what it disclosed about his mindset. The broadcast played softly as I maneuvered known paths, my grip firm on the wheel despite the worry mounting in my chest. Whatever I discovered at Ethan's home, whatever rationale he offered for 10 days of silence, we would navigate it jointly, father and son, as Sophia would have wished. Highland Park emerged ahead, a network of humble homes and rental buildings. I reduced speed, checking markers, readying for whatever dialogue awaited. Elm Street extended before me like a study in city decline. Some dwellings kept tidy grass and new coats, while others yielded to disregard and shattered hopes. Ethan's address, 2049, fell squarely in the fading group. I stationed 4 homes away, the sole open spot on the packed lane, walking toward Ethan's lease. I could not align the disorder ahead with the son who once fixated on precisely arranged markers and matched garments. The front lawn appeared forsaken, chest-high weeds strangling former plant areas, a corroded grass cutter leaning sideways near the veranda stairs. The structure itself bore neglect like a worn garment. Coating flaked from the timber exterior in extended peels, and the front veranda drooped under gathered debris. Journals in synthetic wraps formed a minor heap by the entrance. Some faded from time and elements. I ascended the 3 cement steps, dodging a panel that seemed poised to give way, and rapped solidly on the front portal. The echo resounded emptily, followed by hush. I rapped again, stronger this time, straining for any stir within. Nothing. Circling the building's boundary, I noted fractured barrier sections and a brimming waste container drawing insects in idle loops. The flank panes were filthy, their surfaces so soiled that viewing inside was almost unfeasible. But I could detect something. Muffled voices. Yet certainly there. The den pane faced the adjacent drive, partly hidden by an untamed bush. I drew nearer, cautious to remain crouched, and pressed my ear close to the surface. 2 clear voices filtered through the slim barriers, one unmistakably Ethan's. Been over this 4 times already. Marcus, the schedule must be flawless. Marcus. I had never heard Ethan reference anyone named Marcus. My son's tone sounded altered, tougher somehow with a chilly computation I did not know. Friday afternoons are optimal, Ethan went on. He attends the fitness center faithfully at 2, never skips it, never alters the plan. We will have at least 2 hours, likely more. They were debating someone's timetable, someone who visited the gym on Friday afternoons. My fitness pattern had remained identical for 18 years. Every Friday at 2 precisely. Sophia used to jest about my strict agenda, terming it Vance's holy workout period. I hunched lower, situating myself to hear distinctly while staying concealed. The bush scraped my coat, but I scarcely registered. Something icy formed in my belly as Ethan's words persisted to seep through the barrier. The funds are certainly there. Right. This other voice, Marcus, spoke with calculated composure, like discussing a deal. Definitely. 50,000 in bills, perhaps extra. The old guy distrusts financial institutions. Stores all hidden in the cellar beneath loose planks near the heater. I observed him inspect it countless times through the years. My heart ceased. 50,000. The precise sum Sophia and I had amassed over 4 decades of prudent planning and forfeit. Money that Ethan knew because he had dwelled in that home for 20 years. Because I had entrusted him with our household's fiscal safety. Keys, Marcus inquired, his tone analytical and expert. Bloom container by the main entrance, identical spot for 25 years. He is foreseeable that way. The bush appeared to close in as the complete ramifications overwhelmed me. Ethan was not lost. He was not in peril. He was scheming to pilfer from me, his own parent, every aspect of our residence protection. Every routine I had upheld for years was being listed and imparted to this outsider. I groped for my device with quivering digits, somehow activating the capture function. Proof I required proof of what I was perceiving. Confirmation that this horror was actual. Protection setup. Marcus's queries persisted with automatic accuracy. None. He assumes residing in East Denver grants him security. Neighbors keep to themselves. And the nearest dwelling is 40 feet distant through Sophia's former plot. Even my departed spouse's legacy was being used against me. I bit my lip firmly enough to sample blood, compelling myself to stay mute while my existence crumbled. Through the grimy surface, I glimpsed motion inside. Documents strewn over a surface. Ethan's known form motioning at what resembled blueprints. My blueprints. My home exposed for a felon's ease. The dialogue continued, each element another stab in my rear. My market errands timetable, the sight of extra entry keys, which locals journeyed often. All a skilled pilferer would need to deplete my lifetime reserves while I exerted through my Friday exercise. I retreated from the pain, my device still capturing, my palms trembling with indignation and disloyalty. 38 years of parenthood of striving to nurture Ethan with Sophia's ideals and my own duty sense had culminated in this instant. My own offspring betraying me to an unknown for funds he was too indolent to gain. The tones diminished as I shifted toward the road, but their phrases reverberated in my mind with absolute sharpness. My son, my single child, was planning to strip me bare, and from their schedule talk, it was occurring soon. Very soon. Pressing against the outer barrier below the den pane, I stabilized my device and tuned the capture function's responsiveness. Every term needed preservation, every detail maintained. What I had already captured was condemning sufficient. But Marcus's systematic queries implied this exchange was distant from conclusion. "Walk me through the entry once more," Marcus stated, his tone bearing the command of one used to orchestrating offenses from arrival to access. Ethan's reply froze me deeply. "Station 3 sections distant on Maple Avenue near the cafe. Stroll the area as if you fit. Caucasian male in labor attire will not draw notice in East Denver. Enter from the rear path. Retrieve the keys from beneath the Bloom container. Surveillance none apparent." The old guy is too credulous, too anchored in history to fret about current safeguards. Too credulous. The paradox would have been amusing if it were not demolishing my belief in all I held about my son. I had reared him to be upright, to labor for desires, to honor others' belongings. Sophia and I had exemplified honesty daily of his youth. "Once within," Marcus urged, and I detected papers shuffling as if reviewing scripted schemes. "Direct to the cellar. Timber stairs, 19 treads. They squeak. But the locals are distant enough it matters not. The heater is on the west barrier. Loose planks about 4 feet to the right. funds wrapped in vinyl pouches arranged in thousands bundles. My knees shook as Ethan depicted the concealment Sophia and I had selected jointly after her illness diagnosis. We had desired currency ready for health crises, for end costs, for assurance in an unpredictable world. Now our foresight was financing our son's treachery. How certain are you on the sum Marcus's expertise was nearly more unsettling than Ethan's nonchalant disloyalty? Least 45,000, likely nearer to 60. The old guy has hoarded there for years. Every premium from his building rolls, every rebate, celebration funds from kin, all entered those planks. Through the soiled pane surface, I gained a sharper view of their arrangement. Ethan seated at a collapsible surface covered with documents, images, sketched diagrams. What seemed a printed agenda. Marcus stayed partly obscured, but I could observe his limbs gesturing as he posed queries, his actions efficient and exact. Departure plan. Marcus persisted his orderly questioning. Identical path reversed. Rear exit to path to Maple Avenue. Regular stride. The entire affair should consume 18 minutes, 22 at utmost. By the moment the old guy returns from fitness, inventories his funds, and comprehends the event, we are distant. And subsequently, Ethan's mirth held no warmth, no acknowledgement of his treachery's scale. Subsequently, I call on my sorrowful father. Aid him through this awful breach of his abode. Act the caring offspring while he submits authority accounts and alters bolts. Who would doubt his own progeny? The capture function displayed 14 minutes of sound secured. 14 minutes of proof that my son had traded his kin, his rearing, his mother's legacy, for funds he was too arrogant or slothful to acquire honestly. I required visual proof, too. Adjusting my stance cautiously, I elevated just sufficient to peer through a clear pane section. The surface was plainly visible now. Blueprints of my dwelling in Ethan's known script. Images resembling observation captures of my daily patterns. Even a composed file listing my weekly agenda. Marcus entered sight initially, and my veins chilled. Tall, slender, with the sort of hunter-like immobility implying force was ever viable. Correctional marks adorned his limbs, and his gaze bore the dull demeanor of one who had violated ethical bounds so frequently that morals no longer operated. When Marcus queried, assembling the documents into an orderly pile, Ethan inspected his device. Today, Friday. Dad is at fitness presently, actually, but we require another week to conclude all. Next Friday, June 1st, identical hour, identical pattern. Next Friday, 8 days to resolve how to counter my son's supreme disloyalty, 8 days to determine if Vance Strathmore would be a casualty or something wholly distinct. I descended back and slipped from the pane, my device laden with proof, my heart burdened with awareness that the lad Sophia and I had nurtured was vanished, supplanted by someone I did not identify, someone who viewed his father not as kin, but as a mark. The return to my vehicle felt like wading through dense fluid, each pace loaded with 38 years of broken presumptions. I had arrived concerned for Ethan's well-being, ready to assist through whatever plight caused his hush. Instead, I had uncovered that I was the plight. I was the issue Ethan schemed to resolve with pilferage, treachery, and the aid of a man who appeared to have slain before and would again if needed. By the time I attained my vehicle, my palms had ceased quaking. The capture was safely stored on my device, the proof preserved. Now I had to resolve its use. What my limbs transported me back to the vehicle mechanically, while my thoughts battled to handle what I had just beheld. 38 years of fatherhood diminished to monitoring records and felonious plot. The keys shook in my grasp as I unlocked the operator's portal. The motor initiated with its known hum, but nothing seemed known anymore. My son, the lad Sophia had lulled to slumber, the youth I had instructed to operate in this very vehicle, was scheming to rob me with a convicted offender. The sound capture rested heavy in my device. 14 minutes of disloyalty that would ruin what lingered of our bond eternally. Traffic proceeded leisurely through Highland Park's home lanes, granting me excess time to reflect. Every signal halt, every pause marker brought new surges of incredulity. Ethan knew precisely where I concealed my funds because I had confided in him. He knew my agenda because I had shared it openly, as fathers do with their young. That confidence was now armed against me. By the time I hit the expressway access, astonishment was solidifying into something firmer, colder. The pain endured, but beneath grew a resolve I had not sensed since Sophia's memorial. Ethan had selected. He had picked Marcus Hale over his own parent, picked theft over sincere labor, picked treachery over kin. Denver's horizon ascended ahead as I joined the flow. The known structures appeared altered somehow, as if the metropolis had changed while I unearthed my son's genuine character. Broadcast chatter occupied the hush, but I scarcely registered it over the replay of Ethan's tone depicting my home like a target to conquer. The journey to East Denver consumed 45 minutes through midday flow. 45 minutes to embrace that the lad I had reared was gone, replaced by someone I did not know, someone who saw me not as a parent, but as a barrier between him and simple wealth. Mrs. Whitaker was trimming her flower shrubs when I entered my drive. She signaled merrily, utterly unaware that her neighbor had just learned his own offspring was scheming to strip him clean. I managed a feeble signal back before vanishing into my storage. Inside the dwelling, all appeared precisely as I had departed that dawn. Brew container in the basin, statements arranged on the kitchen surface, Sophia's image beaming from the den. But nothing felt identical. The home Ethan had matured in was now merely a fence scene awaiting occurrence. I sat heavily at the kitchen surface, extracting my device to replay the capture again. Ethan's tone emerged distinctly. The old guy distrusts institutions. Stores all concealed in the cellar. His casual rejection of me as the old guy pained nearly as much as the schemed theft itself. But pain was an indulgence I could not permit. Not with a week until their intended pilferage. Not with 50,000 concealed exactly where Ethan had detailed to his felonious associate. The cellar stairs squeaked under my mass as I descended into the cool obscurity. The heater buzzed softly in its nook, and the loose planks appeared harmless enough. But Ethan knew every facet of this concealment. He had portrayed it flawlessly to Marcus Hale, standing above my lifetime reserves. I made a choice that would have appalled the man I was that dawn, the mourning parent who had journeyed to Highland Park, hoping to mend with his errant offspring, was vanished. In his stead stood someone tougher, someone who grasped that Ethan had proclaimed conflict on his own kin. If my son desired to engage in felon games, then I would demonstrate what transpired when novices attempted to prey on someone who had devoted 45 years constructing enduring things, someone who comprehended strategy, readiness, and the merit of anticipating 4 steps forward. Ethan thought he hunted simple quarry. He was about to learn how mistaken he could be. Saturday dawn discovered me at my computer before sunrise, investigating residence protection systems while my brew chilled. Rest had been unattainable after the prior day's revelation, but my thoughts felt sharper than in months. I had 7 days until Ethan's intended pilferage. 7 days to transform Hunted into Hunter. The web provided innumerable choices for monitoring gear, sensor-triggered recorders, device linkage, remote archiving, dark vision features. My technical history made the specs simple to grasp, but selecting the correct arrangement demanded thoughtful review of Ethan's schemed path. They anticipated access via the rear entrance, proceed directly to the cellar, and finish the theft in 25 minutes. Marcus had queried about protection systems, and Ethan confirmed none existed. That edge was about to vanish. By 10, I had pinpointed the ideal configuration. 5 cordless recorders with device oversight, motion sensing, and automatic archiving to remote storage. Expert setup would consume days, but I had affixed equipment in difficult spots for 45 years. This task would be simple comparatively. The electronics store opened at 11, and I waited in the lot when the initial worker unbolted the portals. The tech area hummed with holiday buyers, but I went straight to the safeguard section where a youthful attendant named Alex welcomed me with rehearsed zeal. "Morning, sir. Seeking to enhance your home safeguard, I require a full monitoring arrangement that I can oversee from my device live." I presented him the documented details I had ready. 5 recorders, wireless linkage, and basic setup for one with fundamental skills. Alex examined my list with increasing admiration. "You have researched well, sir. This arrangement here aligns your needs flawlessly." He indicated a sample model with slim black recorders and a pad displaying various angles. "Network enabled, alerts for movement sent to your device, and 3-month remote archiving included. Power reserve, 10 hours leased on each unit. The program provides real viewing, replay of captures, and you can even speak via the integrated audio if required." Perfect. Within 90 minutes, I had acquired all essential to convert my dwelling into a citadel of proof. 5 recorders, attachment tools, power lines, and a superior remote archiving plan that would maintain all for judicial actions. The return drive took 20 minutes, and I spent another 40 perusing setup guides while consuming a wrap at my kitchen surface. The recorders were remarkably advanced, each no bigger than a card pack with magnetic attachments and variable view scopes. Setup commenced with the main entrance recorder placed to seize anyone nearing from the road or entry path. The magnetic holder affixed readily to the steel border, and the network link formed in moments. The device program displayed a sharp view of my front veranda in actual time. Recorder 2 went in the kitchen, slanted to oversee the rear entrance and primary living zone. Ethan's schemed access path would be seized from the instant he contacted the handle. Recorder 3 enveloped the cellar stairs. Anyone descending toward my concealed funds would be documented from various perspectives. The 4th recorder needed precise placement. I desired full coverage of the cellar zone, where Ethan anticipated finding 50,000 in orderly packets. The edge attachment offered an ideal view of the heater area and loose planks. The 5th provided overlap for redundancy. By 4 Saturday afternoon, my dwelling was altered into an advanced oversight hub. Every recorder transmitted sharply to my device. Motion sensing was tuned ideally, and the remote archiving system backed up all mechanically. I evaluated each component methodically, strolling the dwelling while observing myself on the device display. The picture clarity was exceptional, distinct enough to recognize features, sharp enough to scan texts, thorough enough to supply undeniable proof of illicit acts. Seated in my kitchen, with all 5 recorder views shown on my device, I experienced something absent since Sophia's passing: total assurance in my capacity to manage a tough scenario. Ethan believed he was orchestrating the ideal offense. Instead, he was entering the ideal snare. But oversight was merely the initial phase. Proof collection would be pointless without appropriate authority engagement. Tomorrow I would visit the Denver Police Department and form the alliance that would convert Ethan's schemed pilferage into his ultimate error. Sunday morning's journey to the Denver Police Department felt distinct from my prior excursion to Highland Park. Instead of heading toward doubt and treachery, I was advancing toward fairness and closure. The folder beside me held printed images of Ethan's pilferage schemes, technical details for my oversight system, and a thorough chronology of occurrences. Detective Emily Carter had consented to meet after I contacted the department's routine line and explained the matter. Plot to commit intrusion involving relatives was grave enough for weekend focus, particularly with soundproof and a verified date for the intended offense. The authority lot was almost vacant at 11 on a Sunday dawn. Inside, the counter officer guided me to discussion room C, where Detective Carter awaited with a brew mug and a pad covered in initial jottings. Mr. Strathmore, thank you for attending. I have examined your preliminary account, but I would like the full tale in your terms. Detective Carter seemed in her mid-50s, with silvering locks drawn back expertly, and eyes implying years of familiarity with domestic offenses. Her approach was polite, but detailed. Someone who had learned to confirm every element before allocating assets to any effort. I began with Ethan's volatile request for funds 3 weeks prior, his following vanishing, and my finding of his worsening living conditions. When I arrived at overhearing his exchange with Marcus Hale, Detective Carter inclined forward with fresh curiosity. You captured this exchange, 14 minutes of intricate scheming. Ethan details my home design, safeguard measures, daily pattern, and the precise site of $50,000 in currency. I handed her my device with the sound file prepared. That is my son's tone debating how to pilfer his own parent. Detective Carter heard the whole capture without break, jotting as Ethan's tone outlined the intended offense in systematic detail. When it concluded, she replayed various parts, emphasizing specific risks and timeline aspects. Mr. Strathmore, this capture clearly sets conspiracy to commit intrusion, possibly major theft, based on the sum. You are absolutely sure this is your son's tone? Detective, I have heard that tone for 38 years. I would identify it anywhere, she affirmed, then reviewed the images I had taken through Ethan's pain, the blueprints of my dwelling, scripted agendas of my actions, and notes on key sites formed a persuasive visual story that supported the soundproof. The schemed date is this approaching Friday afternoon at 2:30. Ethan knows I attend fitness every Friday at 2. They anticipate 2 hours to finish the theft and vanish. Detective Carter sealed her pad and reclined in her seat, appraising me with expert evaluation. Mr. Strathmore, what precisely are you suggesting? How do you wish us to manage this? I want them detained during the act. I have set up oversight recorders throughout my dwelling, and I can align with your personnel to guarantee all is recorded correctly. Let them intrude. Let them locate the funds, then detain them with full proof. That is remarkably initiative for a victim of planned kin offense. Detective Carter, my son chose when he opted to view me as a mark rather than his parent. I am merely choosing mine. She devoted another 90 minutes reviewing methods, proof needs, and legal factors. The effort would demand precise alignment, personnel placed but hidden, interaction rules set, and my part clearly outlined to assure both protection and proof wholeness. Mr. Strathmore, you comprehend this will probably lead to grave criminal accusations against your son. Intrusion, conspiracy, possibly more based on what we uncover about this Marcus Hale person. I comprehend fully. Ethan selected this route, despite every chance to choose differently. I will not be preyed upon by my own offspring. By the time I departed the authority building, Detective Carter had pledged to the effort. Friday afternoon would bring undercover personnel, aligned oversight, and the termination of Ethan's felonious path before it could truly commence. I drove home aware that fairness, not merely vengeance, would be delivered. The oversight recorders welcomed me with their constant electronic gazes as I entered my dwelling. 5 days lingered until Ethan's schemed pilferage. 5 days to conclude preparations and ensure every facet of his treachery would be seized, documented, and pursued to the utmost law. At 1:45 p.m., on Friday, June 1st, I executed my ultimate system verification. All 5 recorders displayed clear images on my device screen. Motion sensing was operational, and Detective Carter had verified that unmarked vehicles were stationed throughout the area. 8 days of readiness had culminated in this instant. The kitchen timer indicated 1:50 as I assembled my fitness sack and keys, ensuring to adhere to my standard Friday pattern exactly. Marcus would be observing, timing my exit, verifying that the agenda Ethan had supplied was precise. I could not fail him. I opened the main portal with intentional visibility, hurled my fitness sack into the vehicle bed, and reversed from the drive with the identical relaxed motions I had done every Friday for 18 years. In my rear mirror, the dwelling appeared serene and exposed, precisely as Marcus anticipated. The cafe on Maple Avenue offered ideal oversight positioning 4 blocks from my dwelling. I stationed facing west, granting me clear view lines while concealing my device screen from passers-by. At exactly 2:10 p.m., I launched my oversight program and observed 5 recorder feeds at once. Detective Carter's tone crackled through my device audio at 2:18. "Mr. Strathmore, are you positioned?" "Yes. All recorders are functional and capturing. No activity yet, but he should near soon." "Understood. We are keeping space until we obtain visual confirmation of access." My display showed vacant spaces and silent corridors for another 12 minutes. Then, at 2:32, motion triggered on the rear entrance recorder. A tall form in shadowy garb appeared at my kitchen portal, exactly as Ethan had assured Marcus it would occur. Marcus proceeded with expert assurance, drawing tools from his coat pouch and manipulating the rear portal lock with skilled proficiency. Within 2 minutes, he was inside my kitchen, surveying with the relaxed appraisal of one who had performed this often. "Detective Carter," I murmured into my device. "He is within. Rear portal access, as anticipated." "Roger. We observe him on your feed, persisting oversight until he attains the cellar." The kitchen recorder followed Marcus's motions as he directed himself using the blueprints Ethan had given. He advanced straight toward the cellar portal, disregarding the screen, gadgets, and other objects that might lure a less concentrated felon. The cellar stairs recorder seized Marcus's descent in flawless detail. Each tread was documented, his features plainly visible under the upper light I had left illuminated for this purpose. At the base of the stairs, he veered right toward the heater, adhering to Ethan's guidance with automatic accuracy. "He is in the cellar now, Detective. Advancing toward the funds site. Copy. Units are shifting to final spots. Grant us 40 more seconds." Marcus knelt beside the heater and began lifting loose planks with a lever he had carried for the task. The cellar recorder supplied a clear view as he uncovered the vinyl pouches holding my lifetime reserves, exactly where Ethan had vowed they would be. "Detective Carter. He has located the funds. He is managing the pouches, counting them." "Perfect. All units. Advance now. Mr. Strathmore, continue capturing, but remain at your spot until we signal clear." Through my device display, I observed Marcus pack cash packets into a carrier, utterly unaware that 5 authority officers were accessing my dwelling through both portals simultaneously. The cellar recorder captured the instant Marcus realized he was not solitary, his head jerking up as heavy steps resounded above. "Denver police. Drop all and raise your hands where we can view them. Marcus's features displayed expert acceptance rather than astonishment. He had been apprehended before, knew the process, understood that opposition would only worsen matters. The carrier fell to the cellar floor as his hands ascended overhead. Marcus Hale, you are detained for attempted intrusion, conspiracy, and breach of supervision. Detective Carter's tone emerged through my device with fulfillment. Mr. Strathmore. Suspect secured. Phase 1 done. Stay at your location. Your son should arrive in the next 20 minutes for Phase 2. I drove back toward my dwelling, knowing that fairness was at last being administered, that 45 years of sincere labor had been shielded, and that the toughest part still awaited. Authority vehicles aligned my quiet road like formal accents, their crimson and azure lights coloring my area in hues of rule and outcome. I stationed behind Detective Carter's plain vehicle and walked toward my main portal where Marcus Hale sat restrained in the rear of a patrol vehicle. Gazing forward with the empty look of one computing incarceration duration. Detective Carter met me at my front stairs, her expert manner softened by what might have been empathy. Mr. Strathmore, your oversight system functioned flawlessly. We have all documented intrusion, theft effort, recovery of your funds. Hale will not see liberty for several years. What about Ethan? He should appear any instant. We will manage his detention identically by protocol with complete records. As if called by our exchange, Ethan's known car turned the bend onto my road. I watched my son's expression shift from relaxed expectation to baffled alarm as he processed the authority vehicles encircling his childhood home. He parked awkwardly, partly on the walk, and emerged, resembling someone entering a horror. Ethan neared the authority boundary with increasing panic, his luxury garments and bold stride dissolving into the frantic motions of one realizing capture. Detective Carter advanced to block him before he could attain my main portal. Ethan Strathmore, you are detained for conspiracy to commit intrusion, accessory to attempted theft, and breach of confidence. What? No. There has been an error. Ethan's tone fractured like an adolescent's as restraints clicked around his arms. Dad. Inform them this is incorrect. I stepped into his view, and the frantic hope in Ethan's eyes faded as he saw my composed features, my absence of surprise at the authority presence, my evident collaboration with the officers who had detained his associate. Dad, how could you do this to me? The query lingered between us like 38 years of unsuccessful teachings finally due. I looked at my son, restrained, shamed, facing confinement for attempting to pilfer his own parent, and felt something unexpected. Tranquility. How could I do this? Ethan's son, you schemed to intrude my dwelling and steal all your mother and I amassed over 45 years of marriage. You introduced a felon into our area, provided him detailed schemes of our home, told him precisely when and how to violate the place where you matured. I thought you would never discover. You thought incorrectly. My tone carried the command of one who had spent decades building lasting things while watching his son dismantle all of value in his life. You made your choice when you selected Marcus Hale over your kin. Now you get to endure the results. Detective Carter directed Ethan toward a second patrol vehicle while reciting his entitlements. You have the right to stay mute. Anything you utter can and will be used against you in a tribunal. Ethan twisted back toward me as the vehicle portal opened. Dad, please. I am your son. I erred, but you cannot permit them this. Ethan, I devoted 38 years attempting to teach you right from wrong. Your mother passed believing you would eventually absorb those teachings. I approached nearer to the patrol vehicle, close enough to see moisture forming in my son's eyes. Today, you absorbed them the difficult way. The authority vehicle departed from my curb, transporting Ethan toward processing, hearing, and whatever fairness the tribunals would supply. I watched until the vehicle vanished around the bend, then returned to Detective Carter, who was aligning the extraction of proof from my cellar. Mr. Strathmore will require a formal account, but the initial charges are firm. Hale will likely receive 4 to 6 years as a repeat violator. Your son probably less, since this seems his initial major offense. I affirmed, grasping that legal results were only portion of what had been settled today. The greater fairness, the shielding of all Sophia and I had constructed, the affirmation of ideals I had upheld despite kin pressure. That fairness was already whole. Detective, I will supply whatever witness you require. Both made their selections. Now they can confront the outcomes like grown-ups. 90 minutes later, the authority vehicles were absent. My funds were back in their cellar concealment, and my dwelling was hushed again. But the hush felt altered now. Not barren or isolated, but serene, deserved. Tuesday evening's Denver Gazette carried the tale on page 4. Father's safeguard system thwarts son's pilferage scheme. The piece described the detentions without dramatizing the kin turmoil, focusing rather on the expert authority labor and advanced oversight technology that had rendered the effort successful. I read the piece thrice while seated in my preferred den chair, Sophia's image positioned where I could view her grin while handling how our tale had finally attained its end. The journal's report was factual, but overlooked the profounder truth. This had not been about technology or authority labor, but about ideals maintained steadfast under the supreme trial. Detective Carter called at 5 to offer updates on the judicial processes. Marcus Hale had relinquished his entitlement to hearing and accepted a bargain for 4 years in state confinement. Ethan's matter would consume longer to settle, but his counsel was already debating a bargain that would yield 24 months with chance of release in 15. Your son desires to see you, Mr. Strathmore. He has inquired about visiting entitlements once processed into the system. Detective, I value all you and your department have accomplished, but Ethan chose about our bond when he opted to pilfer me. I do not see that altering because he was apprehended. I comprehend, sir. Some connections cannot be reconstructed once torched. After disconnecting, I descended to the cellar to verify my funds one ultimate time. The loose planks were precisely as I had left them, the vinyl pouches whole and undisturbed. Despite Marcus's brief management, 50,000 in currency gained through 4 decades of sincere labor remained secure because I had been willing to shield it from my own offspring. Standing in the cellar where Ethan had first learned of our kin's reserves, I sensed Sophia's presence more potently than since her memorial. Her tone echoed in my recollection. Vance, if you grant him all without labor, he will never value effort. She had been correct about firm affection, correct about limits, correct about the enduring results of enabling poor conduct. Sophia, I did what was necessary, I voiced to the vacant cellar. Our son selected his route, and I selected mine. Fairness was administered. The cellar stairs squeaked under my mass as I ascended back to the main level, leaving the funds secure in its concealment and the history secure in its teachings. In the kitchen, I prepared fresh brew and settled into my evening pattern, verifying the bolts, reviewing tomorrow's agenda, living the tranquil existence that came from rendering tough choices rightly. Mrs. Whitaker signaled from her garden as I checked my main portal, her gesture bearing the same communal warmth it always had. The community esteemed what I had done, shielding my home, collaborating with authority, refusing to be preyed by kin manipulation. Sometimes righteousness required hard actions. At 8 o'clock, I deactivated the oversight recorders I had set to catch my son. Their aim had been fulfilled. Fairness had been delivered, and regular life could resume. Tomorrow would bring its own trials, but tonight I could repose, knowing that Sophia's ideals had triumphed, that sincere labor was shielded, and that even the most agonizing treacheries could be answered with just deeds. The dwelling settled around me with familiar sounds of security and peace. My funds were safe, my conscience clear, and my son was absorbing the teachings I had spent 38 years trying to impart. Sometimes the toughest affection was the truest, even when it led to restraints in confinement chambers. Sophia would have been proud. If you enjoyed this heartfelt story of betrayal and justice, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more tales like this. Share your impressions in the comments below. What would you have done in Vance's situation? Let us know your thoughts. Feel free to ask questions to discuss further and interact with the channel. We love hearing from you and exchanging ideas. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.